From Radio Communications Incorporated, good afternoon and welcome to King's Newsroom, a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Today is Thursday, June 5th, 2025, and I'm Newton Tokwa presenting. Stories we're following this afternoon. U.S. Embassy and European Union delegation to Liberia congratulate Liberia on UN Security Council on non-permanent seat election, reassured bilateral relationship and continual collaboration on shared global priorities. Dozens of citizens sharply criticized also representatives passed resolution validating all legislative actions including 2025 national budget, says the action is intended to shield House Speaker Richard Cohn from previous unconstitutional efforts carried out by the majority bloc. The government of Liberia announces reopening of investigations into a series of mysterious deaths during the former President George Weah's administration. And away from Liberia, the Congolese government has banned the media from reporting on the activities of former President Joseph Kabila and interviewing members of his party. 8 distribution centers in Gaza will be closed for a date on Wednesday as the Israeli military warned roads leading to the sites will be considered combat zones. These plus our news bulletin, our international developments, and all package. We'll take a very short break to be right back. Thanks for rejoining us at this juncture. We cross over to Sam Andrews with the news bulletin.
The United States government, through its embassy near Monrovia, has congratulated Liberia following its election to a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council for 2026-2027 term. The U.S. Embassy, in a statement issued Wednesday, described Liberia election as a significant milestone and a diplomatic progress. The statement further acknowledged Liberia's commitment to global peace, regional leadership, and international cooperation. On Tuesday, Liberia won overwhelming support by securing 181 votes during the UN General Assembly in New York. Liberia has joined 4 other countries elected to serve on the 15-member council, which is tasked with maintaining international peace and security. Tuesday's election marked Liberia's return to the council for the first time since 1961. The embassy statement reaffirmed the United States government's strong commitment to bilateral relationship with Liberia and expressed continued cooperation on a shared global priority through multilateral engagement. However, the announcement has been widely celebrated across diplomatic cycles, including the Liberian public, who view the country's election as a powerful symbol of its re-emergence on the world stage. The United Nations Security Council includes 5 permanent members and 10 non-permanent members elected for a 2-year term. At the same time, the European Union delegation to Liberia has extended its heartfelt congratulations to the Liberian government on the successful election as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. In its statement issued Wednesday, EU noted that the achievement is a testament to Liberia's growing leadership, commitment to peace, stability, and international cooperation. The European Union delegation further expressed its proud to stand alongside Liberia as it takes the important role on the global stage. According to the statement, the European Union looks forward to continued partnership and collaboration as Liberia brings unique voice and perspectives to the United Nations Security Council, promoting peace, security, and sustainable development for Africa and the world. The Liberian government said it will reopen investigations into a series of what it termed suspicious deaths that occurred during the tenure of the previous administration led by the Coalition for Democratic Change. The cases under review involve the deaths of several auditors and civil servants, incidents that sparked widespread public outrage and fueled suspicion of foul play. Justice Minister Oswald confirmed that the Ministry of Justice will lead an inquiry, but will collaborate closely with the United States for technical assistance and access to critical information. It includes support in obtaining financial and communication record link to individuals sanctioned by the United States Treasury Department on alleged corruption. The government move follows growing demands from Liberians who believe the previous administration obstructed justice and shielded influential figures from accounting. Deputy Public Affairs Minister at the Ministry of State Anthony Kesely has acknowledged former President George Weah's congratulatory message to Unity Party's government and other partners following the country's election as non-permanent member on the United Nations Security Council. In a statement on his official Facebook page, Minister Anthony Kesely described the former president's statement as a good step that signifies unity. He added, the move by President George Weah aligns with President Boakar's call to Liberians to embrace unity and work together in the building of the country. Minister Kesely further emphasized the need for unity among former and current leaders of Liberia for the country's peace building and upholding its democratic uprightness. He also expressed hope that Liberia's victory as non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council will bring tangible and impactful reality in Liberia's border politics and unity, amongst others. A cross-section of Liberian citizens has criticized the House of Representatives Tuesday resolution which validates all legislative action taken by the then majority bloc, led by Representative Richard Cohn, now Speaker. The resolution passed on Tuesday includes the approval of the 2025 budget previously declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in April due to what the court termed as procedural breaches. The House's decision has drawn widespread condemnations, with some critics describing it as a strategy to shield Speaker Richard Cohn and other members of the lower house who were members of the majority bloc from accounting for their illegal action. They accused the executive branch of government of backing the resolution in an effort to protect Speaker Cohn's alleged illegal action, which they argue undermines the rule of law. Meanwhile, the citizens are calling on the Senate to reject the lower house's legislative instrument, describing it as an affront to the Constitution. They also urged the public to turn out in large numbers for the stern organized protest scheduled for July 17 to resist what they described as the government's unconstitutional action and a threat to democratic principles and national peace. The executive director of the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, Dr. Emmanuel Yakpawulo, has called for stronger regional cooperation to safeguard West Africa's shared river systems. Speaking at the Mano River Union briefing and sensitization meeting on the establishment of the Trans-Boundary Water Basin Management Office held at Corina Hotel in Monrovia, Dr. Yakpawulo underscored the urgent need for collaborative action among MRU member states. Dr. Yakpawulo cited real-world examples to illustrate the passing nature of the challenges. He recalled a 2024 incident in which the Kavala River, shared by Liberia and Ivory Coast, was contaminated by a mining operation. Yet Liberian authorities only became aware of the population a month later. The EPA executive director added that illegal dredging continues along the Kavala with limited enforcement due to jurisdictional and logistical constraints on both sides of the border. He noted that Liberia has made freshwater protection a central pillar of its nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement, but emphasized that national efforts alone are insufficient. Dr. Emmanuel Yakpawulo recommended that the proposed regional office prioritize the development of clear policies and binding treaties to be implemented and enforced through the national institutions of member states. Liberia's ambassador to the International Maritime Organization, Ragbo Pade, has issued a stern warning to the world that climate change is not just an environmental issue, but an escalating threat to global security. Speaking at the 16th NATO Maritime Conference, Mr. Carter urged the international community to avoid treating climate change as a distant concern and present a strategic crisis plan that require immediate political action. The NATO Maritime Conference is a key forum for shaping transatlantic maritime cooperation, focusing on rising sea levels, increased high storm intensity, and deteriorating maritime ecosystems, and place new and profound strains on global security infrastructures. The conference contains a high level audience of maritime leaders, defense officials, and climate policy experts in the coastal town of Sendai, China, as Chenia Grace. Mr. Kwade cited a recent tragedy in Monko, Nigeria, just 28 miles from Lake Chad, where unprecedented rainfall led to catastrophic flooding, destroying homes and claiming lives. The Center for Accountability and Transparency in Liberia has expressed concern following the release of a compliance audit report by the General Auditing Commission, which uncovered several irregularities in the Ministry of State supplementary payroll system covering the period from July 1, 2018 to March 31st, 2024. Addressing a conference Tuesday in Cinco Central, Executive Director Anasi Miami stated that among key findings, over US 3.5 million unauthorized supplementary payroll spending, payments totaling US 7.9 million, and Liberian dollars over 9 million disbursed without proper documentation, including severance payments made to over 647 layoff employees without authorization. Mr. Miami noted that while much of this period falls under the administration of former President George Weah, the current officials of government under Unity Party are not blameless. The Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia Executive Director stressed that report revealed that within 2 months of assuming office, the Unity Party administration hired supplementary staff outside of formal recruitment processes and paid them over 36,000 United States dollars monthly using funds from the consultancy budget, all without proper documentation or verification. The Central Executive Director called on the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission to expedite investigations into allegations, adding that the LACC confirmed that a probe into payroll padding began on October 14, 2024, but nearly 8 months later, no conclusion has been reached. In a related development, the Center for Transparency and Accountability Executive Director lauded the government for its recent accession to the Fisheries Transparency Initiative, calling the move a positive step toward open governance. However, in the same breath, the Center executive boss raised red flag about what he termed as persistent and worsening corruption in public institutions, especially the Ministry of State, and is urging the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission to act decisively. Speaking with reporters Tuesday, Central Executive Director Anotsi Miame described Liberia's FITI membership, formalized on May 21st, as a step in the right direction. The international initiative is designed to promote transparency and sustainable practices in the marine fisheries sector through a globally recognized set of standards. The women of West Point Market, supported by fellow marketers, on Tuesday submitted a formal petition to the House of Representatives through Speaker Richard Cohn, calling for urgent legislative intervention over what they described as unlawful withholding of market authority by Montserrat County District 7 Representative Emmanuel Down. In their petition, the women alleged that Representative Emmanuel Down refused to hand over the keys and official control of West Point Market to the Liberia Marketing Association despite a court ruling affirming LMA authority. The marketers emphasized that the current LMA leadership was democratically elected through a transparent process and should therefore be allowed to assume full control of the market. They further contended that Representative Emmanuel Downs' ongoing refusal to comply with the court's decision not only undermines the rule of law, but also violates standard administrative procedures. The marketers voiced serious concern that the prolonged dispute has disrupted market operations, created confusion, and jeopardized the livelihood of hundreds of women, many of whom are single mothers and sole providers for their families. And in a quest for better education, the citizens of Yegbe Town over the weekend launched a fundraising campaign for the Yegbe Town Public School in Todi Statutory District. The long dormant Yegbe Town Public School, located in the Marine Clown Todi District, has not been operational since 2018, depriving children access to formal education. The initiative, spearheaded by the District Education Officer Prince Fode, School Principal Dakba Flomo, and Piwi Sando, is aimed at mobilizing community leaders, including parents, together in raising funds for the reopening of Yegba Public School. Speaking at the fundraising program, Prince Fode District Education Officer said the 6 years closure has had devastating consequences on kids within Yegba Town.
Sam Andrews there with the news bulletin. The news bulletin is a regular feature here on King's Newsroom. What if you just joining us? A reminder you're listening to King's Newsroom, a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Today is Thursday, June 5th, 2025, and I'm Newton Tukwa presenting. Stories we're following this afternoon. U.S. Embassy and European Union delegation to Liberia congratulate Liberia on UN Security Council non-permanent seat election, reassure bilateral relationship, and continue cooperation on shared global priorities. Dozens of citizens sharply criticized House of Representatives' past resolution, validating all legislative actions, including 2025 national budget, says the action is intended to shield House Speaker Richard Combs from previous unconstitutional efforts carried out by then majority bloc. The government of Liberia announces reopening of investigations into series of mysterious deaths during former President George Weah's administration. Away from Liberia, the Congolese government has banned the media from reporting on the activities of former President Joseph Kabila and interviewing members of his party. 8 distribution centers in Gaza will be closed for a day on Wednesday as the Israeli military warned roads leading to the sites will be considered combat zones. These are stories we follow here this afternoon, King's Newsroom. We'll take a very short break. We'll be right back. And now on our first development. Cross-section of Liberian citizens has criticized the House of Representatives Tuesday resolution which validates all legislative actions taken by the majority bloc led by Richard Combs, now Speaker. The resolution passed on Tuesday, June 3rd, includes the approval of the 2025 national budget, previously declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in April due to what the court termed as procedural breaches. The horse's decision has drawn widespread condemnation, with some critics describing it as a strategy to shield Speaker Cohn and other members of the lower house who were members of the majority bloc from accountability.
Mr. Richard Kuhn should be have a citizen arrest. Mr. Richard Kuhn have violated and disrespect the sovereignty of the Liberian people that are imposed in this government and within him. We have been calling on the radio station, through media online, that Mr. Richard Kuhn and the entire government were in violation of our law. There's a reason why the July 17 protest is necessary, and Richard Kuhn just validated the reason why people should come in the street July. So, and when the legitimize is illegality, sending a and Tracono resolution to the House of Senate. But this is a caveat to those senators. I know there are people of wisdom. They are out, and I know they will not sit there to push the country into backwardness. So we are calling on them, and they should not concur with this identical Richard Kuhn.
The action of the House of Representatives has just validated our argument that we said that all of the proceedings that the court of called the legitimate speaker Richard Kuhn was carrying on, it was illegal. And we said it, that money that they were using, they were illegal. The budget that they passed, it was illegal. And all the proceedings were illegal. So for them now to come up, because they have been crying from all over from the Liberian people, as long as Richard Kuhn resigned the lifestyle to contest in the election that now brought in as speaker proper, the Liberian were calling upon him to also restitute everything that he did to illegally and use, knowing fully well that his government will not be able to prosecute him. The government will come tomorrow to be able to pick out this case to prosecute him. So they are now going to legitimize their action. This is evil. This is satanic. You cannot be as a leader all that you are interested in to take the Liberian people resources onto yourself, and then the Liberian people are in poverty. Liberian people cannot find their way through.
Some cross-section of Liberian citizens expressing their dissatisfaction about Tuesday's resolution passed by the House of Representatives. The executive director of the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, Dr. Emmanuel Yakpaulu, has called for stronger regional cooperation to safeguard West Africa's shared river systems. Speaking at the Minor River Union briefing and sensitization meeting on the establishment of the Trans-Bantu Water Basins Management Office held at the Colonial Hotels in Single, Monrovia, Dr. Yakpaulu underscored the urgent need for collaborative action among MRU member states in Liberia. Dr. Yakpaulu cited real-world examples to illustrate the pressing nature of the challenges.
We gather here today for a matter of critical importance, the management of shared water basins. But before I dive deeper into the subject, allow me to share two good stories that bring this issue to life. First, in June last year, the Cavalry River was polluted by a mining company based in La Côte d'Ivoire. Shockingly, we only became aware of this incident a 4-month later. Today, the Cavalry continued to be threatened, not just by pollution, but by illegal revenue from both sides of the borders. These illegal miners treat the river as a common property free for the taking. Yet, when the authorities attempt to arrest miners from Côte d'Ivoire, jurisdictional limits make it nearly impossible. And certainly, the reverse is true for our Ivorian counterparts. Second, during the visit to Freetown, I raised the issue of protecting the Mano River, which serves as a natural boundary between Liberia and Sierra Leone. A passionate gentleman in the meeting shared how he grew up beside the river, how it was flowing, clean and clear. Today, that same river is polluted by many activities from both countries. These stories are not isolated. Climate change, pollution, and poor population are compounding the pressures on the river basin. I could list many more examples, but the message is very clear. There is an urgent and undeniable need for transboundary collaboration on resource protection, especially shared water monitoring. We have the opportunity before us to establish support and ensure a functional MRU water basin authority. Liberia has already prioritized fresh water management in our updated nationally determined contributions, NDC 3.12.
He's the executive director of the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, Emmanuel Yapaulo. They're speaking. Liberian ambassador to the International Maritime Organization, Robert Bade, has issued a stern warning to the world that climate change is not just an environmental issue, but an escalating threat to global security. Speaking at the 16th NATO Maritime Conference, Bade urged the international community to avoid treating climate change as a distant concern and present strategic crisis plans that require immediate political action. The NATO Maritime Conference is a key forum for shaping transatlantic maritime cooperation, focused on how rising sea levels increases high storm intensity and deteriorating marine ecosystem and place new and profound strains on global security infrastructures.
It is really a great pleasure to join all of you wonderful leaders in this room to talk about climate change and maritime security. I'd like to thank Commander for the opportunity, the entire center, to invite me to come and share my insights on the climate change and maritime security. I don't come here as an expert. I am not an expert. I come here to emphasize and to echo the sentiments and the warnings given to all of us by the experts. I believe our experts this morning and those that will come after have done an incredible, wonderful job with dissecting effectively, brilliantly, the danger climate change poses and how it intersects with international maritime security. So I am grateful for the opportunity. I'm a politician and a diplomat, and I think it's critically important for politicians to join and rally in the call to put emphasis on climate change and the danger it poses to mankind. I think it is important because politicians are the ones who are the hands of power. They are the presidents. They are the prime ministers. Everything we talk about, we can come in this room and talk about all the strategy, all the policies, and raise all the alarm. If we don't have the backing of the political leaders who should make the ultimate decision, we go nowhere. So I am thrilled to be a part and to be able to speak with my leaders back home about the significance of putting emphasis on what I think is a threat to the world, climate change. So that being said, let me seize the liberty with your permission to say a few words before I share my insights. My dear friends, let me acknowledge all of us that climate change is not a disaster waiting to happen in the future. It is happening now. It is already ravaging the earth and taking a tragic toll on livelihood, even as we gather to hold this conference. Let me just share with you, on last Sunday, Nigeria witnessed a very heartbreaking scenario. This event, a town called Mokra, maybe 20 miles away from Lagos, experienced a very horrible flood. To date, 220 persons have lost their life. The town is submerged by the flood. This was because of a torrential rainfall. Very, very terrible. I said this to you to tell you the essence of climate change.
He's Liberian ambassador to the International Maritime Organization, Robert Bade, speaking. Well, with the time half past the hour, if you're just joining us, a reminder you're listening to King's Newsroom, a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Stories we're following this afternoon. U.S. Embassy and European Union delegation to Liberia congratulate Liberia on UN Security Council non-permanent seat election, reassure bilateral relationship and continue cooperation on shared global priorities. Dozens of citizens sharply criticized House of Representatives passed resolution validating all legislative actions, including 2025 national budget, says the action is intended to shield House Speaker Richard Cohen from previous unconstitutional efforts carried out by then majority bloc. The government of Liberia announces reopening of investigations in series of mysterious deaths during former President George Weah's administration. And away from Liberia, the Congolese government has banned the media from reporting on activities of former President Joseph Kabila and interviewing members of his party. 8 distribution centers in Gaza will be closed for a day on Wednesday as the Israeli military warned roads leading to the sites will be considered a combat sites. These are stories we follow here this afternoon. We'll take a very short break to be back with more developments. On this one now, the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia has expressed concerns following the release of the compliance audit by the General Auditing Commission, which uncovered severe irregularities in the Ministry of State supplementary payroll system covering the period from July 1st, 2018 to March 31st, 2024. Addressing a press conference Tuesday in Cinco, Center Executive Director Anansi Miame stated that among key findings include over US 3.5 million unauthorized supplementary payroll spending, payments totaling US 7.9 million and LD 964,766.21 cents disbursed without proper documentation, including the severance payments made to over 647 laid-off employees without authorization. Miame noted that while much of this period falls under the administration of former President George Weah, the current officials of the government under the Unity Party are not blameless.
While we commend the government of Liberia for the recent transparency effort, we are mindful of the report recently released by the General Auditing Commission of the Compliance Audit of the Supplementary Payroll System of the Ministry of State for the period covering July 1, 2018 to March 31, 2024. The report underscores systemic issues in public financial management of the Ministry of State during review unauthorized supplementary payroll spending in the tune of over $3.5 million dollars, payment of over $7.9 million dollars, and Liberian dollars $964,766 without supporting documentation, and unauthorized severance payments for 647 laid-off employees. We note that the audit covers to a large extent the administration of former President George Weah and the previous ministers such as Nathan McGill, Senator Magidi County, and Wilson Broom. Nonetheless, in addition to the many systemic issues raised by the audit linked to the current administration regarding period administration, the report indicates that the ministry under the current administration hired supplementary staff within 2 months of taking office without proper recruitment processes and paid the hires over US dollars to the 36,000 monthly for consultancy borderline without verification or documentation. The report also noted failure of the current administration to provide records or facilitate verification of these employees, raising concerns about transparency and accountability. Center sees this finding as disturbing, especially considering that the Ministry of State dismissed 3 senior officials in 2024 that made reports of payroll tampering. We wonder whether the ministry dismissed these officials for acts done prior to the Baga administration or for those done during the Baga administration, or both. We believe that the answer to this dilemma will shed light on whether the Ministry of State is truly committed to fighting corruption and not saving face by targeting those who served the previous administration. We urge the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission to take swift actions to investigate these allegations. We have reviewed the recent quarterly report of the LSCC, which indicates that investigations into payroll power is ongoing since it began on October 14, 2024.
In a related development, the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia Executive Director Anansi Miame lauded the government of Liberia for its recent accession to the Futurist Transparency Initiative, calling the move as a positive step toward open governance. However, in the same breath, the Center Executive Director raised red flags about what he termed as persistent and worsening corruption in public institutions, especially the Ministry of State, and is urging the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission to act decisively.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, we have read with great excitement that Liberia has joined the Fisheries Transparency Initiative on May 21, 2025, a global multi-stakeholder partnership aimed at enhancing transparency and participation in sustainable management of marine fisheries through the implementation of the Fiji Standard. The Fiji Standard is a global recognized framework that outlines specific transparency requirements for countries in the governance and management of marine fisheries. We applaud this effort by the government of Liberia through the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority, NAFA, to promote the culture of transparency, especially within the fisheries sector. Liberia's membership to the initiative is a step in the right direction in promoting an equitable, inclusive, and transparent fisheries sector. On to be those days when policies, frameworks, agreements, processes, and reports with implications on the people in the state are shrouded in secrecy. Now is the time to nurture and value a culture of transparency across different government institutions and their services. We commend NAPA for maintaining an active website and a portal for online application for licenses. Nonetheless, we look forward to publication of more information regarding fisheries agreements, revenues, and expenditure reports, and other key information on the sector. In conclusion, we call on President Joseph Nkwaka to do the needful while acting swiftly on recommendations contained in the order if systemic issues must be addressed. We also reiterate our call for the LCs to speedily address those associated with findings contained in the audit report, as well as those connected to the House bribery.
He's the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia Executive Director Anasin Miame. They're speaking. And away from Liberia, the Congolese government has banned the media from reporting on the activities of former President Joseph Kabila and interviewing members of his party. This comes after Kabila returned to the Democratic Republic of Congo last month amid heightened tensions between himself and the government led by his successor, President Felix Tshisekedi. The authorities are pushing to prosecute Mr. Kabila amid accusations of treason and alleged links to the M23 rebels, which have been fighting the army, something he has previously denied. Breaches of the ban could result in suspension, said the head of DR Congo's media regulator, Christian Bosimbi. Responding to the announcement by the regulator, known as the Supreme Council of Audiovisual and Communication, an M23 spokesperson said the media outlets in parts of the country under its control would not abide by the ban. Well, on that notice, I would like to go home this afternoon on this edition of King's News Broom, a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. But just before we go home this afternoon, let's remind you of stories we've been following. U.S. Embassy and European Union delegation to Liberia congratulate Liberia on UN Security Council non-permanent seat election. Readers show bilateral relationship and continual cooperation on shared global priorities. Dozens of citizens sharply criticized the House of Representatives passed resolution validating all legislative actions, including 2025 national budget, says the action is intended to shield House Speaker Richard Cohn from previous unconstitutional efforts carried out by the majority bloc. The government of Liberia announces reopening of investigations in series of mysterious deaths during former President George Weah's administration. Away from Liberia, the Congolese government has banned the media from reporting on activities of former President Joseph Kabila and interviewing members of his party. 8 distribution centers in Gaza will be closed for a day on Wednesday as the Israeli military warned roads leading to the sites will be considered combat zones. These are stories to follow here this afternoon on King's Newsroom. We'd like to say many thanks to all of our reporters, correspondents, news editors who helped in making this package. Our sources, Sam Andrew, brought us the news bulletin. Thanks for listening and watching. My name is Newton Topa. I presented this edition of the program. Bye-bye.